everyone, welcome to biology class. This is the part 2 of this chapter number 1 we are going through. Last video we had discussed in the chapter number 1 about the plant tissue and its subcategory, that is meristematic tissue. We discussed the various types of meristematic tissue, that are apical tissue, then lateral meristematic, and the last intercalary meristematic tissue. You had been given a homework to do to write down the different types of meristematic tissue. You have to write down them in your fair notebook as well. I hope you have completed the work, and today onwards we'll be discussing about the second type of plant tissues, that are permanent tissues. Let us begin. This is what you're supposed to write in your homework answer: the types of meristematic tissue and about those subcategories of meristematic tissue. That is apical meristem, that is found at the tips of the plant parts, and what it is doing is elongation. It increases the length of the plant stem and the root. Second, lateral meristem, it is found beneath the bark. What it is doing, it increases the diameter of plant organs. Next, third one, that is intercalary meristem. It is present at the base of internodes, and what it is doing is it increases, or it is responsible for the growth of the plant organs. That is, the branches of the plant are grown by the help of intercalary meristem. Let us now move on to today's topic, that is permanent tissue. So, unlike the meristematic tissue which are actively dividing, the permanent tissues are a bit different. They do not divide further. So, the meristematic tissue are actually actively dividing cells. On the other side, the permanent tissues do not divide. They do not do cell division. But this meristematic tissue only give rise to permanent tissues. What is given is permanent tissues develop from the new cells. From where they are coming? From the meristematic tissue only. So the meristematic tissue convert into permanent tissue only. Next, the permanent tissue are having definite form and size. Their shape is generally fixed because they are not dividing, so the shape is generally fixed. Next, they are having a thick wall, or sometimes they may have a thin wall as well. That depends on the type of permanent tissue that we will just see. Let us see the next point. They generally have large vacuoles. What may be the function of vacuoles, that we will explore today itself. Then this point, the last one you have to remember, the permanent tissues are dead cells. Yes, that is why they do not divide further, because the permanent tissues are dead cells. They do not divide further. And another important thing, the meristematic tissue, what is their function? Last class we discussed that they are actively dividing cells, so they are generally responsible for the growth of the plant body. It may be the height of the plant, increase in the height of the plant, or it may be the growth of the plant organs. But in the case of permanent tissue, it is not responsible for the growth of the plant, but there are several other functions, some special functions that are done by the meristematic tissues. Let us see them one by one. Before going to the functions directly, we will see the types of permanent tissue. The permanent tissues are classified or categorized into two different methods, that is simple permanent tissue, and second one is complex permanent tissue. Today we will be learning about the simple permanent tissue. Let us have a look on the simple permanent tissues. So the simple permanent tissues are generally similar type of mature cells which perform the similar functions. And what they are doing, the function of simple permanent tissue is they provide support and protection to the plant. They are responsible for these two main functions. Apart from this functions, let us see the categories of the simple permanent tissue. These are having three categories, means they are of three types. One is called Parenchyma, another one Sclerenchyma, and the third and the last one is Sclerenchyma. These three are the types of simple permanent tissue. The plant tissues are of two types, meristematic and permanent. Then the permanent are of two types. They are simple permanent and complex permanent. Now we are studying simple permanent, and they are also classified or categorized into three different subcategories: Parenchyma, Collenchyma and Sclerenchyma. Let us see about them one by one. First one is Parenchyma. Parenchyma is generally the most common plant tissue, and all over the plant body it is the one which is available in the maximum quantities. It is spread all over the plant body, where we can find almost everywhere. You can find root, stem, leaves, flowers, almost everywhere parenchyma may be present. How it may be present? It may be present in the form of the outer covering of the plant parts. So actually what part we are seeing of the plant, that is generally parenchyma. It is working, it is actually present there as the outermost covering of the plant body. Let us see the structure, the diagrams. You can see in the book as well, and you have to draw in the notebook. This diagram taken separately. You have to draw which one is given in your book only. That same diagram you will draw. That will be your homework for this week. You have to draw all the 3 diagrams of these simple permanent tissues. I will tell the figure number at the end of this video. So the structure we are going on, let us have a look on this structure. So the parenchyma tissue, they are thin walled cells, and the cell wall is thin, but this cell wall is made up of cellulose. Cellulose is generally a type of carbohydrate only, and this cells, now the parenchyma cells, are having prominent nucleus. Prominent means which is easily visible. You can see here, in the center they have shown separately, the nucleus has been shown, and apart from this they are having vacuoles. You can see there are many vacuoles there. You can see here these white color symbols are shown as vacuoles. So what these vacuoles may be doing here, that is generally storing the food. Extra food is stored in the vacuoles. The shape of this is generally round in shape. And one more thing, there are intercellular spaces in between. You can see some spaces empty. This triangular pattern space, generally it is left in between. So the intercellular space is present there. Intercellular air space is there. Vacuoles are present. Nucleus is present in this. The cytoplasm is there in these type of cell. Cytoplasm is what? Cytoplasm is the liquid or the fluid present in the cell body. This is all about the structure of the parenchyma cells. Let us have a look at the function, what they are actually doing. So the vacuoles we saw, so that vacuoles are doing what? They are storing food. So that becomes the function of parenchyma also. So the parenchyma cells store food as well as water in the roots and stem of the plants. The extra food and water can be stored inside the parenchyma, and inside parenchyma where it is, that is in the vacuoles. Next, it helps in the conduction of water in the roots and stem of the plant, because water is stored there, so it will be conducted as well through the parenchyma cells. A special type of parenchyma cells are there, that is if parenchyma cells are having chloroplast. Chloroplast is the pigment responsible for chlorophyll. It is a green color pigment. You should be knowing as you have studied photosynthesis in earlier classes. So the parenchyma cells, there are some typing errors. Should we see? When the parenchyma cells contain chloroplast, what they will be called as? They will be called as chlorenchyma. Now this is not another type of cell. This is also parenchyma only, but because this chlorenchyma is containing chloroplast, that is why this name is given. Chlorenchyma is also parenchyma only, just the name is different because it is containing chloroplast. So what this chlorenchyma is doing? Because it is containing chloroplast, so it will do photosynthesis, and by photosynthesis what we get means we are getting food of the plant is obtained by the chloroplast, by the process of photosynthesis. So chloroplasts are a type of parenchyma only. So we have seen the functions of the parenchyma cell: store food and water, help conduction of water, and chlorenchyma help in the manufacture of food in the plant body. Let us now come to the second type of cells in the simple permanent tissues, that is collenchyma. The collenchyma are where these are present. They are present in the dicot stems. Generally, we can say in the stem, petioles, and the flowers and the flower stalks. Petioles are in the of the leaves. Petioles of the leaves and the flower stalks. Below the flower, that greenish part is there, that is called as flower stalks. So they have a strong resemblance with the parenchyma cells. If we see their structure or the diagram, generally they are more or less they are similar. Only few differences will be there. What may be the differences we will see in the structure here. So the structure or the shape is generally same, circular, oval, polygonal. There also it can be there. And in the parenchyma cells also similar structure is there. But one special visible difference is there, that is they are joined without any intercellular space. In those cells, in the parenchyma cells, you can see in this here in the diagram you can see a lot of space is there in between. But in this diagram you can see in between the cells there is no empty space. So that is they are not having intercellular space. They are joined without any intercellular space, and the corners are thickened at the corners. And what is present there, their special pigments are present. The pigments you have to mark in your book and you have to remember this pigment name is cellulose and pectin. So pectin pigment is present where, this may be asked. So pectin is present in collenchyma cells, and the collenchyma cells, just like parenchyma, they are also having vacuoles. You can see in the diagram as well. So what is the main difference between these two is in regard to the structure. Parenchyma and collenchyma, the difference is regarding the space, intercellular space. Parenchyma are having intercellular space, collenchyma are not having that intercellular space. Another thing, collenchyma are having pectin in them. The function we'll see now. The function of collenchyma, they provide mechanical strength, they make the plant body strong so that the plant can stand straight upright. Sometimes these cells also prepare food, just like collenchyma cells. They can also prepare food. Now the third type of the simple permanent tissue is sclerenchyma. These cells are found in the hard coverings, generally where of the nuts and the seeds. Generally it is the wooden part, and they are also found in the stems and the veins of the leaves. In the stem also the tough part or the hard part, and the veins of the leaves also are tough part as compared to the leaf structure. So generally the hard coverings of the plant are having sclerenchyma. Why is it so hard? That we will see in the structure here. There we will find out the reason. So the mature sclerenchyma cells do not have a mature protoplasm, and usually these cells are dead. So this we may ask in internal question, which type of simple permanent tissues are dead. Generally they are sclerenchyma. There also no intercellular space is there. And then this is the main point what I want to tell you, that is lignin is present there. The cell walls are containing lignin, and because of these sclerenchyma cells are very tough and they are very hard because of the presence of lignin. So this pigment also name you have to remember. What pigments we have gone through, we have learned about pectin that is present in collenchyma, we have learned about lignin that is present in sclerenchyma cells, and the first one was containing cellulose. Let us move on to the function of sclerenchyma. The sclerenchyma cells, because they are very hard, they are mechanical in nature and provide rigidity and toughness to the different parts of the plant. You can observe the different tough parts of the plant, like the stem, the bark of the trees as well is containing sometimes sclerenchyma. You can see the outer covering of the nuts. For example, walnut, it is very difficult to break it because the outer wall is made up of it is containing sclerenchyma cells there. So lignin is present in that. You'll remember a special point is there in your book. You can note, you can underline there about lignin they have given. So lignin is present in sclerenchyma, and this lignin is very hard substance which gives strength to the sclerenchyma cells, and ultimately plant organ and the plant parts become hard or tough. So this lignin is very tough. It is having a high tensile strength. That means tensile strength means it can bear a heavy weight. It will not break down easily. So that is, it is having high tensile strength. Other than this, one more thing, it is making the cell wall impermeable. That means the other things cannot easily pass through. For example, if you put a sclerenchyma cell in water also cannot enter the sclerenchyma cell, or the cell wall cannot be crossed because of the lignin only. So these cells, the sclerenchyma, are containing this lignin pigment in them. So today what we have learned is the three types of cells, that is parenchyma, sclerenchyma and the collenchyma. The parenchyma cells have intercellular space, Collenchyma, no intercellular space. Sclerenchyma also, no intercellular space. Vacuole is present in parenchyma, vacuole is present in collenchyma. Sclerenchyma is not having any vacuole. A subcategory of parenchyma is called as chlorenchyma because of the presence of chloroplast. It is parenchyma is doing what? It is generally present all over the outer covering of the plants. It is also responsible for the conduction of the water in the plant body. It can store extra food. Then collenchyma, what it is doing? It is giving strength to the plant body. Pectin is present there, and the lignin is present in the case of sclerenchyma. It is the tough part of the plant body wherever it is present. That is all for today's part. The next topics, that is the complex permanent tissues, we will move on to in the next upcoming video. Now we will move on towards the book exercises and the short answer questions of this chapter number 1. Let us, here we are with the book exercises. The answers only I have mentioned here. You can note them down in your textbook. I will just scroll through. You can take a pause and note down these answers. All these answers you can easily note down. Here in the true false, in the correct the false statement. For the correction, wherever you have to make correction, I have crossed or striked that word. That word you have to cut through in your book and write the another word. For example, in the second one, false statement, permanent you have to cut and write there meristematic. The third one, two words you have to cut. Meristematic will become permanent, and permanent you will cut and write meristematic. Similarly, the fifth one, you will write phloem in place of xylem. So that is how you can correct these statements. Then match the following. The answers in front of the questions itself I have written there. Tissues with actively dividing cells are meristematic tissues. Outermost covering of plant part is epidermis. Xylem are complex permanent tissues. Lignin is present in sclerenchyma. A spongy plant tissue is chlorenchyma. Then the odd one out, as well as the reason for why it is out. Why is it odd one? That all are mentioned there. You can note them down. Then the remaining questions, give one word. Also you have to note down the answers. Here are the short questions. You have to tell first the complex permanent tissues, that is xylem and phloem. Next, location where the meristematic tissue is present, at the growing tips of the root, stem and leaves. You can correct the spelling. Then the meristematic tissue types, there was apical, lateral and intercalary. Next, where are stomata present? They are present in the epidermis of the leaf. Epidermis means outer covering of the leaves. Next, generally it is the upper part. Epidermis is the upper part of the leaf. Next one, permanent tissues. From where they are coming? From the meristematic tissue, and the permanent tissues are dead cell, and they can perform a special function in the plants. As today also we have seen some special functions performed by permanent tissues. Next, simple permanent tissues are how many types there are? There are of 3 types: parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Next, question 7. Why is epidermis the protective covering of plant? Why it is so? Because it forms the outer covering of various plant parts and protect them, because this protective covering is protecting the plant body from external influences. What things can be there? It can be heat or it can be moisture. Next, now what things what the xylem contains and what does the phloem consists of. So the names you have to note down. Xylem contains 4 substances: tracheids, vessel element, xylem parenchyma and xylem fiber. Phloem also contains 4 things: sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, phloem fibers. The last two name the following, only one word answers. You can note down collenchyma and lignin. That is all for this question answers in the book exercises. In the upcoming video, we will be discussing the remaining part of the chapter, the complex permanent tissue and the long questions as well. These answers you have to note down in your fair notebook, and you have to learn this. This is your homework for the present week. That's all for today. Thank you.